A judge is set to rule tomorrow on a case affecting the vote Missourians take on abortion rights this November. It impacts the description that voters see while trying to understand the impact of the ballot question. Missouri Capitol Bureau Chief Joe McLean reports from Jefferson City on the continuing legal fight.
This ballot summary language is pretty important. This is what goes on the Secretary of State's website. It's also what's posted in every polling place across the state. The issue here is Secretary of State Ashcroft rewrote it in a way that a previous court has already said is unfair and misleading. Attorneys for the Secretary of State declined to comment on the case, but they argued to a judge Wednesday that Amendment 3, which would codify reproductive rights into the Missouri Constitution, actually creates a dangerous loophole in the law. They claim courts could interpret the amendment to end up preventing any abortion provider from being sued for malpractice or preventing any regulation from being enforced. Susan Klein is not affiliated with the state's case, but leads Missouri Right to Life as one of the state's loudest anti-abortion voices.
An unlimited, unregulated right to abortion, all 9 months of pregnancy, the 7th, 8th, 9th month.
Attorneys for the ACLU and the Missouri Appeals Court said the amendment does allow certain restrictions, including after the point of fetal viability. Ashcroft had rewritten almost identical language onto the ballot question itself, which judges ruled was too prejudicial and argumentative. Attorneys challenging the language this time say they believe the court will do the same thing here.
We asked the court today to rewrite the statement to accurately reflect what a vote for the measure would entail, and that the court prohibit the Secretary of State from posting his misleading language on his website or any polling locations across the state. The judge said he plans to hand down a decision Thursday, less than a week before the courts lose their ability to make changes to November's ballot. In Jefferson City, Joe McLean, KY3 News.
And we're also following another lawsuit affecting the abortion amendment. This one was brought by two Republican state lawmakers trying to get the question removed from the ballot entirely. Now, that case is in front of a judge on Friday.